Hi there, Liz from SGos here, and today I'm doing a bit of an update on my rig because I've decided to make quite a big change. The rig I've got here I've been using in its first incarnation since about 2009 I think, when I first built it, but it's had a few upgrades since then. And it's an awesome rig. It's done 2 SGos albums. It's just such a big, heavy thing. It weighs a ton, and a lot of what I've done to it was for being able to use it live. Like, it's all sort of MIDI controlled. It's got a Rocktron Prophesy preamp in there as a second amp, so it's running dual amps. So a lot of the reason it's as big as it is to kind of make using this head and various pedals and things that are in the drawer, being able to instantaneously switch all that, and a lot of the money in it is in the MIDI switching capabilities. So I've decided to simplify my rig basically for live, for writing, for rehearsing. And I was sort of umming and ahhing over what to get for a long time. I was trying to decide between a Kemper or an Axe-Fx. Either way, it's the whole thing of, it's an all-in-one single unit, which gives you lots of sort of wide range of sounds, but in a small package that's light, easy to move, can be used either with a cabinet or without, whichever way. So yeah, it just makes a lot of sense. I mean, this thing sounds amazing, definitely, because it's all analog, all valve, awesomeness. But it's just a pain to transport, to move. I mean, a head on its own weighs a lot, but then this is even more. This takes 2 people to lift. It's on wheels, but you know, you still have to move it about, and it's a huge thing. It's like nearly the size of a fridge. But yeah, so as I was saying, I was deciding to go down the modelling route, primarily for rehearsals, because for our next album Tom's going to be using an acoustic kit, not the electric kit we use for Logocharia. So we're actually going to be rehearsing outside of this space. We'll still work in here and write in here as well, but for when we're playing at full volume with an acoustic kit, I kind of need a solution for that, and that same solution we'll use for playing live shows. So in the end, after literally years of research and deliberation, I decided to go for an Axe-Fx. So I've recently got one, and the foot controller, and I'm sort of starting to learn how to use it and program patches that I need, and so far I'm loving it. Right, so I'm out of the studio and in the house now. I'm just going to show you the Axe-Fx really quickly. Ta-da! So that's it. So this replaces kind of everything in my current rig in a way. It's the amp, the power amp, don't need cabinets but I might use them, all the effects, and this is a 4-unit case, whereas my main rig out there is 12-unit rack case, plus the head, plus pedal boards, and maybe cabinet, maybe not cabinet, but so yeah, it's dramatically reduced in size and weight. So yeah, it's a Axe-Fx 2 and Matrix GT1000FX power amp. So I'll probably use this with my 4x12, which I've had for years, or I may get a small 2x12 or just use it direct to front of house to the PA. But yeah, I've been spending a lot of time playing with it and having fun with that. But it's really quite easy to use actually. I've got quite a lot of experience with sort of signal processing and stuff, so it's pretty, it's not been much of a learning curve for me really. It's just learning the sort of peculiarities of this itself, and with the Axe-Edit software it's so easy to edit. It's I'm used to editing all these kind of things on the unit itself, which obviously you can do with this, but the Axe-Edit just makes it so much easier. It's really fast, quick, visual, good interface, you know, using a computer. So that's why I've got this in the house, because it's hooked up to my computer in here, and I've just been programming patches and getting to know it. And so that's the MC101 Mark III, the board, which again, it's awesome. You've got all instant access controls, scene selections. So I've kind of set this up how I think at the moment I'm going to be using it, which is with all these as kind of instant access switches, tap tempo and tuner, and then 5 scenes, so they're my kind of instant recall. The effects I kind of use mostly I've got on these instant access switches, and I'll set up all my presets to have those kind of things in them basically. I've just got a couple of external switches to get access to the other scenes, just with latching foot switches, so they can get me through to scenes 7 and 8, 2 of those. And I've got another Roland DB5, so I'm going to take the one off my current pedal board as well, so there'll be 2 for this, and then I'll put together a small board which will be just the MC101, a couple of DB5s and a couple of foot switches, and that'll be it really. So yeah, it's all much more minimal. Like my rack I've got now, for example, takes 2 people to lift it, whereas this I can lift with 1 hand. So yeah, massive difference. And I've been really impressed with it. It sounds awesome, sounds really good. So I might do some other videos on the Axe Effects itself maybe soon, or at least just show you some of the sounds that I've come up with maybe. But yeah, so that's the new rig. In terms of the compromise between size, weight, flexibility, it just wins. Like either that or the Kemper wood really. It's just, for me, the Axe Effects sort of appeals to me more because I'm a real sound design nut. I love creating sounds and doing weird stuff with effects, and the Axe Effects just offers so much more flexibility in that department than the Kemper does. Now I'm going to start destroying this rig effectively. I'm going to sell some of it I'm going to keep, because I still want to keep the amp head. I'm going to keep all my effects, but a lot of this rack stuff, like the MIDI switcher, the Lexicon reverb and delays, the Prophesy, compressors, and the mixer, I no longer need. So I'm going to be getting rid of all that stuff. I'm going to keep the head for recording in the studio, because I will use the Axe Effects probably for some stuff, but like 99% of my core tone is still going to be the way I've always done it, with a valve amp, pedals, using either speakers or, like I've got in the bottom here, a speaker simulator, which is how I've been using this for a long time. So yeah, I basically want to have the elements of this rig that I need for creating sounds for recording tracks, keep all that stuff, get rid of all the stuff that basically turns it into a MIDI switchable instantaneous recall rig, and just use this as in the studio, setting up sounds as and when I need them, and not an all-in-one trying to do everything rig, because it's just overcomplicated, a lot of maintenance and just hard work moving around and stuff. So that's the plan. Before I do dismantle this rig, I'll give you a brief kind of overview of it and what it does. I did do a video on it a few years back, I think about 2013 or something, which is when I did the final kind of adjustments to it, which leaves it how it is kind of now, which is with an 8-channel mixer, so the whole thing runs through a mixer, and then 2 XLR leads come out of this, and they go into a preamp and into our in-ears and to front of house and all that kind of stuff. What goes on here is my signal goes in through a pedal board which has just a wah-wah on it in terms of effects, and all the rest of it's control. I'll put an image up of it here. Basically there's just a wah pedal, a switch for kicking in the wah, and then all the rest of it's the MIDI controls. So it goes in, and after going into the tuner down here, comes into this Lehle dual SGos, which is a 2 to 3 amp switcher. So at the moment that's on the Marshall, that would be the Prophesy. You can have both, and there is the possibility to put a 3rd line in as well, which most people use just as a tuner, but you can do more with it. So after that it runs into the RG16, which is the brain of the whole thing. That controls both the channel switching on the amp here, and also what effects from in here are in the circuit. And then it sends all the program change messages to my Lexicon delay, to the Rocktron Prophesy, and this compressor is also in the loops of the RG16. So pretty much that's the brain, that's controlling everything, and I use a Rocktron Midimate to make changes. So by pressing one button I can change a patch on this, which effects are in the chain, what channel the amp's on, whether each side of the compressor's on or whatever, just immediately by one button. So you'll see when I kind of go through some patches, everything kind of just changes and switches to the pre-programmed stuff, which is awesome. I love it, it's so cool. But it's really just, it's just not overkill, but there are easier ways of doing this now. May not be quite as good sound quality wise, but it's so close now, it makes the equation sort of almost unworthy in a way. It's like the compromise is just leans in the favour of using a modeler for live use. So what goes on here with the mixer, which is the final stage of it, is there's a feed directly out from the Marshall into the Palmer speaker simulator down here. So that's one channel, so that's just the amp dry, and then the next two are the left and right sends from this. Basically this gets a feed as well from the Palmer, so that gets the dry signal from the Marshall, comes out in stereo 100% wet for the for all the reverbs and delays. Then the next two channels are the Prophesy preamp, left and right stereo, and I mainly use this just for like clean tones, and the Marshall head does all the kind of dirt tones really. And then the other two I use either a VG88 or a GR33 guitar synth and Cosm modeler thing. So that's also split out. It's not in here at the moment, but that goes to another two channels on the mixer there. All the levels are mixed, all the pans are sent, and then it's just two XLR cables that go out, and that's how the rig works basically. Right, I'm going to give you a look at the pedal board that controls the rig. So looking down here, guitar goes in here. Normally it comes from a feed from either the VG88 or the GR33 Roland, synth things, because I use, on all my main guitars I have the GK system, so I can use MIDI and trigger synths and all that kind of stuff. So the guitar signal comes in here. This is a vane tap leech, which is just a single looper pedal basically. So I modified the wah so it's always on, and then taken out of the circuit, true bypass by that really, which makes it not destroy the guitar tone. Then I've got a line selector in here which I'm using A as a buffer, and B, I can also I've got a spare power lead here, I can chuck in any old effect if I wanted at any time. If I wanted to use a specific effect just for a jam or whatever, I could just chuck one in there, there's just a space for it. And then the main thing is the Midimate, which controls all the different patches, and there's banks and banks of them. So just this is kind of like my basic kind of jamming patch really. Just clean overdrives, a few heavy tones, some lead tones, lead with delay, that kind of stuff. So it's like an all-purpose general bank, that one. Then over here I've got mute, which mutes the entire signal chain for everything. EV5, which controls parameters in the Lexicon and the Prophesy, depending on the patch. So I can adjust, delay times or whatever like that. And this is actually the audio send level to the Lexicon. So in real time, I've always got volume control of how wet my signal is in terms of the reverbs and delays, which works really well. So for example, I could be controlling the time or repeats on the EV5, and I can also balance the level of the effects in there, depending on what I'm playing. Out here's my little homemade shoddy bodge job pedalboard connector. So these are just all the connection lines that go out to the rig in through a big fat multi-core cable that carries the MIDI as well. And that's it really. It's mostly a control board. It's just the audio has to go through this pretty much just for the wah, and then audio comes back to it just for that volume there. So yeah, it's done me well for 7-8 years, something like that, but now it's time for a change.